There are some days in the garden I honestly don't feel like talking about. Today was one of those days. This morning, I pulled out my entire bean trellis. For weeks, I kept hoping they would flower, then fruit, but in the end, nothing happened. Just leaves. More vines, more waiting. Every morning, I stepped onto my little balcony and looked at them first, hoping maybe today would be different. Maybe I'd finally see tiny flowers. Maybe the first bean pod starting to grow. But day after day, it was just green leaves staring back at me. And this morning, I decided to stop waiting. Not because I wanted to give up, but because sometimes in gardening, holding on too long can keep you from making room for something better. I think one of the hardest parts about growing your own food is accepting that not every plant will give back what you hoped for. You water it, you feed it, you check on it every day, and somewhere along the way, you start imagining the harvest long before it happens. That's what I did with these beans. When I planted them, I pictured long green pods hanging down from the trellis. I imagined picking them fresh for dinner, saving seeds for the next season, watching them become one of the most rewarding plants in my garden. In my mind, it was already a success. But the garden had other plans. The vines kept growing. They climbed higher and higher. The leaves looked healthy, strong, green. From the outside, everything looked fine. But deep down, they weren't giving me what I had hoped for. And honestly, that disappointed me more than I expected. This is the part of gardening people don't always show: the failed plants, the empty spaces, the effort that didn't turn into harvest. Online, gardening often looks perfect: big tomatoes, heavy cucumbers, endless baskets of greens. But real gardens, they're messy, unpredictable, and sometimes heartbreaking. Maybe the weather was too hot, maybe the flowers never got pollinated, maybe the roots struggled, or maybe I made mistakes. I honestly don't know, and that's part of what makes gardening so humbling. It doesn't always explain itself. Sometimes you only learn by losing something. This morning, I was busy and didn't even have time to film myself pulling the beans out. At first, I felt bad about that, like I missed an important moment. But maybe that's okay. Not every moment has to be captured. Some moments are just meant to be lived. After I cleared the space, I stood there for a while, looking at the empty spot. It felt strange. Just yesterday, it was full of green life, and today, it was only soil. A few leftover roots, some tangled strings. But I realized that empty space wasn't the end. It was room for something new. And that's one of the reasons I still love gardening. There's always another chance, another season, another seed, another beginning. And thankfully, today wasn't all loss. I harvested some onions. Pulling them out of the soil always feels special. Seeing those white bulbs hidden underground feels like uncovering a small gift after weeks of waiting. It wasn't a huge harvest, but it was enough to remind me that the day still mattered. I also spent some time pruning my tomato plants, cutting away old leaves, yellow leaves, branches growing too crowded. Every time I prune tomatoes, it feels like helping the plant breathe again, letting in sunlight, making room for air to move, helping the plant focus its energy on growing fruit. And that's the interesting thing about a garden. One plant fails while another keeps growing. One space becomes empty while another is full of life. The garden doesn't stop because one crop didn't work out. And maybe neither should we. I think gardening is a lot like life. We plant with hope, we care with patience, but we don't always receive what we expect. Some seeds grow into harvest, and some seeds grow into lessons. Today, pulling out those bean plants reminded me that letting go is not failure. Sometimes letting go is how we make space for better things. The garden keeps teaching me that everything has its season: a season to grow, a season to harvest, and a season to begin again. What matters most isn't what I lost this season. What matters is that I still have enough hope to plant again. Because as long as I keep planting, hope is still alive. And sometimes the seasons that don't go the way we planned are the ones that make the next harvest feel even more meaningful. So if you've ever had a plant that didn't make it, or a season that didn't turn out the way you wanted, tell me about it in the comments. I think every gardener has a story like this. And sometimes sharing the hard parts teaches us even more than sharing the successful ones. If you enjoy real stories from this little balcony garden, the good days and the hard ones, follow along. Tomorrow, I'll plant something new in that empty space, and I hope you'll be here to see what grows next, because the garden keeps growing. And so do we.